When my wife was pregnant with our first child, she developed something called gestational diabetes, something I'd never heard of before and now know a little bit about. That's why it's important to have a chance to sit down with Freda Lewis-Hall. And I want to ask you, gestational diabetes, what is it?
That? Right.
What is that, and does it affect a lot of women?
It does affect a lot of women, or a number of women, and gestational diabetes is the diabetes that occurs when you're pregnant. It is not uncommon, and a lot of people were like, well, why did I get that? Why did I get it?
Right, that's how my wife, how my wife was.
I'm sure she did, and sometimes it's not that you did something in order to get it. There are risk factors, but we don't exactly know why it develops in some people and not in other people. So what are the risk factors? If you're over 25.
My wife was 39.
If you're overweight.
No, she was in shape.
If you have a history of unexplained miscarriages.
She had had a miscarriage
or
before,
lost,
sure.
yes, if you lost a baby previously. If you've had a previous pregnancy where the baby weighed more than 9 pounds. If you have a family history of diabetes. So these are some of the things that add additional risk to someone who is pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was such a revelation because I was just like, I'd never heard of that. And then we went into the situation of after the baby. Mm-hmm. What about her health after the baby and her chances of actually developing diabetes?
If you've had gestational diabetes, then you're at risk for developing diabetes later when you are not pregnant. It doesn't mean that you will, it just means that your risk is greater for that. And your child is also at risk for being obese and for later on developing diabetes as well.
You know, it's interesting, she was so vigilant about everything while she was pregnant. Then after she had the baby, then she was like, I don't even want to go see the doctor. I'm afraid he may say I'm a diabetic.
Well, you know, it's so interesting that you would say that because one of the things that I used to see with patients was I would say to them, why did you wait so long to come and see us? They would say, oh, yes, I've been experiencing this or been having trouble with that. Where have you been? Why didn't you come and see us?
Yeah.
And they would say exactly what you said. I was afraid that you were going to tell me that I had something bad. And
but if you got it, you got it, right?
You got it, you got it.
Right,
and
yeah.
Waiting on it to go away is not a good strategy.
So has gestational diabetes just shot up? Because there seems like there are women having babies at a much older age now.
Well, overall, age is one of the risk factors for gestational diabetes. And we're not quite exactly sure why one person would have diabetes, gestational diabetes, versus another woman who wouldn't have it. But we do know these risk factors. And there are some increases that have been noticed in gestational diabetes over years. Exactly which of the risk factors are contributing to that, we're not exactly sure. And that brings me to research. We know a lot about diabetes, but we don't know nearly enough. One of the important aspects of this is for people who do have diabetes to be willing to consider being a part of a clinical trial. It's hard work, but I consider people who do that are really heroes. In fact, when you ask people, why, with all that you have to do and the illness that you're dealing with, are you willing to be a part of a clinical trial? And you know what they say?
What?
I want to do it for my children and my grandchildren.
Oh, that's a good point.
I want to make sure that what is happening to me, if there's a way that we can find out a better way, that I'm a part of finding out a better way.